yogis! Thanks for joining me for a Yin Yoga class today. We'll be focusing on opening up our hips. If you come to class with me regularly, you know that I have incredibly tight hips. So that's what we're going to focus on opening up today. Sal and Jedi are here. They are joining me for class. We'll see how it goes. I might have to get up and remove them from the room, but they seem to really want to be in here right now. So if they behave, they'll be with us. If not, we might have to take a little pause and I'll take them into the bedroom. To get started, we'll just start in a really simple posture. We'll start in butterfly pose. But before that, you'll want to make sure you have a few props available. I would recommend having a blanket. You could just fold it up like so if you have something like that. A Mexican blanket works really well. Or you could even use like a comforter, not really a down comforter, but like a more firm one. You could also use a decorative couch pillow. Those work really well as well. They're usually the right height and squishiness to give your hips just that right amount of support. So you could try that too. And then you also want a block perhaps or a bolster. Those aren't necessary. If you're curious as to what I'm talking about, this would be a yoga block. You could use something else as well. You could use a shoebox, or what else could you use? A book, if you have a big book or something like that. But they're not necessary. They're just kind of nice to have. And then also this is a bolster here. So once again, you could use like a rolled up blanket would work well if you wanted to use something like that, or anything else that's kind of this general shape. Maybe another couch cushion. Maybe you have some bigger ones as well. So you could try that too. So as we set up for this first posture, I'd like you to think about inviting in a little bit of patience into your practice. Very often, especially in Yin, and even in our more yang style classes like a vinyasa class, we kind of forget to be patient with ourselves and our bodies. And we force ourselves right up to that edge. As we work on opening up the hips today, I'd like you to be a little bit kinder to your body and allow your body to open up nice and slow. There's no rush. So that's kind of my, I guess, my public service announcement. So patience. If you can incorporate a little bit of patience in your own practice, that would be wonderful. So we'll get started. And for this posture, I would recommend blanket, especially if your hips and lower back tend to be a little bit tighter. And then you'll sit on the blanket. You want to sit with your sit bones so that the bottom of your pelvis, kind of that bony part of your pelvis, is supported by the blanket. And then the legs will go forward. I'm going to actually turn this way so you can see the setup. Hopefully you can see over Sal's head. But the soles of my feet are touching and the knees are dropping out to the side like the pages of a book. From here, think of tilting the pelvis forward, so it's an anterior pelvic tilt. Tilt the pelvis forward, the heart goes forward, and then you can fold. So go forward as far as you can with a long spine, and then when you can't keep the spine long anymore, then you can round. If you have a block handy or a bolster, you could perhaps rest the block on your feet and forehead on the other edge of the block. Or use your bolster. You can slide it up right between your legs there and fold forward here. Taking an ear down. You can even get creative and bring it up a little bit higher. We all have different ranges of motion in our hip joints. So know that you don't need to compare to what my range of motion looks like. Yours might be better, it might be worse. It doesn't really matter. So as long as you're feeling a stretch here in this posture, you're perfect. You're exactly where you need to be. Go ahead and invite your body into stillness here. We'll be here for about 4 minutes. I'll keep track of the time so you don't have to worry about it. As you settle into the posture,
Envision your breath flowing into the back side of your lungs. Each inhale breath creates an expansion of the lungs, of the rib cage. It creates space. And allow each exhale breath to create a softening. So you soften into the space that was just created on the inhale. You may notice that the inhale breath lifts you up out of the posture ever so slightly, and the exhale releases you back into the posture. We're about halfway through. Check in. Is your body giving you permission to move deeper into the posture, moving closer to sensation? Or is it asking you to back out, back away from sensation? Either way, honor it and make any adjustments needed. Begin to deepen your breath. And then slowly roll your spine back up, stacking vertebra on top of vertebra until you come all the way upright.
Once you've come up to an upright seat, take your hands underneath your knees, guide your legs up toward one another, and then extend one leg long and then the other leg long. Give your legs a little shake, a little bump, the blood flow back into them. And then we'll move on to our next posture. It's another hip opener, and it's a posture that's actually a little bit new to me, and I love it. So I'm going to share it with you. It's a deer pose variation. So when you come into the posture, you don't really need any of your props. You might want a bolster, or you could fold up your blanket, but they're not necessary. So the setup for the posture, we'll start on the right side. So bring your right thigh parallel to the long edge of your mat and your right shin parallel to the front edge of your mat. Your left leg will be extended out to the side, so more or less your thigh is parallel with the front edge of your mat as well. You could take it a little bit further back if that's comfortable. I wouldn't bring it forward though. From here, you turn and square the shoulders over the front leg. We'll bring the hands forward. You could stay right here. This might be enough depending on your flexibility and mobility in the hips. If you want more, you could walk the hands coming down a little bit lower. Maybe the forearms come down. And it's fine to let your left hip lift. Maybe you stop here. You could use your block underneath your head or support. Or even that bolster. You could bring the bolster in front of you and rest an ear down on your bolster if it's available. We'll be here for 4 minutes. Soften through your shoulders, and the muscles of your face. And allow your right hip to open. Remember that you don't want to experience any pain in these postures. A little discomfort, sure, that's okay. But if you're experiencing any sharp, shooting, burning sensations, please back out of the posture. About 1 more minute left. If your mind has begun to wander off, guide your awareness back to your breath. And be aware of the quality of your breath as it flows in and out through your nose.
Reconnect with your breath. And with your next inhale, use the strength of your arms to slowly lift your torso up out of the posture. Once you're up, turn onto your hips, bringing both legs to the side. Once you're there, windshield wiper your legs a little side to side. So finding that little bit of internal rotation and external rotation. And then we'll move on to the other side. So you can turn back to face your bolster, if you used one, to the front edge of your mat. Bring your left thigh parallel with the long edge of your mat, and your left shin parallel with the front edge of your mat. Remember that this right knee, you don't want it to be pointing forward at all. You want it to be out to the side or even slightly back. Square your shoulders forward. Let your right hip lift. Bring the hands forward. Once you found that squaring, maybe you stay right here for a few rounds of breath. And when you're ready, you'll lower all the way down if it's available. Remember, you can use a prop underneath your elbows or underneath your forehead if you need support. Let go of the need to do more here in this posture. Let go of the need to experience more sensation, and allow your body this opportunity to open nice and slow. Invite in that sense of patience. With patience, it often takes a bit of acceptance, accepting where our bodies are in this moment, accepting the quality of mind, letting go of any judgment surrounding those experiences. And allow your focus to stay inward, aware of the sensations in your body, and aware of your breath.
Deepen your breath. And then with your inhale, peel your spine up off of the legs. And then take your hands back behind you. And from here, same as on the other side, just windshield wiper your legs. Rock them gently side to side. And then coming back to face the front of your mat. I want to set up for a series of, they call them dragon lunges in Yin. It's a series of low lunges, and they work really deeply into the hip flexors. So if you sit a lot in the office, at a computer or whatever, drive a lot, these are wonderful. They're maybe one of my least favorite Yin postures, but it's because my hip flexors are tight. So we'll start here. We'll start on the right side since we started on the right side with that first posture or second posture. Step your right leg forward. And for me, I like to have the bolster. Once again, I said that my hips are tight. My hip flexors are tight. So for me, the support is really nice. Right leg steps forward. And then you're going to make sure that the left foot is right back behind the knee. It's not out to the side or in. And then sit your hips low. So this is one of those opportunities where you get to sit the hips really low and bring your hip all the way down to your bolster. I'm going to bring my bolster back just a little bit so I have a little bit more support. And then rest your hands on your right thigh here. Make sure your left foot isn't sickling in here, so try to stay on the top of the foot. We'll be here for 4 minutes, and we'll move progressively deeper. Just let your gaze be forward. Your shoulders soften away from your ears. The navel draws in just slightly here. Stay here. Or bring your forearms down to your thigh. You can let your neck release if you like. If that causes any strain on your neck, just keep the gaze forward. Opportunity to stay here or bring your hands down to your bolster or block, whatever you have there available for support. Option to stay here or drop your forearms down. If you're dropping the forearms down, draw the heart forward instead of rounding your back. If this feels like it's too much, just back out, nice and slow and controlled. Close your eyes. And if your eyes are closed, open them. And then slowly lift your torso up. Press back with the hips slightly. And step your right knee underneath your right hip. You can slide your bolster off to the side for a moment here. And come into a tabletop pose. So hands underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. And we'll take a few barrel rolls here. Take your hips over to the right, and then back, and over to the left, and then forward. Just going a couple of times in this direction. And then switch directions. Notice if you have any spots that feel a little extra sticky, a little extra tight. And then come back to center. Once you're in center, we'll set up for the other side. Bring your bolster in front of you if that's what you are using. And bring it over to the right side of your mat slightly. Left leg will step forward this time. So bring the left foot forward, toes point straight forward. Take a peek over your right shoulder. Make sure your right leg is going straight back behind you. And make sure the top of your foot is down on the mat. It's not sickling. From here, you will bend into your left knee. Bring your right thigh to your bolster or cushion. Make any adjustments you need to if you need a little bit more support. And we'll be here for 4 full minutes. I'll keep track of the time. Soften through your shoulders. Feel free to stay as you are, or begin to draw your forearms down onto your left thigh. The hips may sink a little closer to the earth. They may not. You have the option to stay right here where you are, or bring your forearms down to your thigh. Same option as before. If it feels better to drop your head and let your head hang heavy, please do. Otherwise, keep the gaze forward, eyes closed, inward focus. This posture here does have a bit more of a yang quality to it. So it's even more important that we find patience and acceptance here. Stay here, or bring your hands down to your bolster. If you're bringing your hands down to the bolster, you might want to sit the hips even a little bit lower if it's available. Next option would be to bring the forearms down. Choose the option that works best for you. And know that you don't always have to stick with that first choice. You can always change your mind and back out of the posture. Notice if your brow is furrowing or if your jaw is tightening, and soften. Just a few more rounds of breath here. And with your next inhale, use the strength of your arms to lift your torso up, shift your hips back, and step your left knee underneath your left hip. Bring your hands down to your mat as you slide your bolster off to the side, tabletop pose. And we'll take barrel rolls again. Shift your hips to the left this time first, and then around to the back and over to the right. Go 3 times in each direction. And then switch directions if you haven't already. And then come back to center. And we'll move on to our next posture. We'll take dragonfly pose, which is a wide leg straddle. So if you have tighter hamstrings and a tighter lower back, you're going to sit on your blanket again. And I'll show you the posture from the side just so you can see the spine alignment in the posture. So blanket, mine has a double fold because my hamstrings are a little tight. So blanket will go across your mat there. And then you'll take a seat on it. Same as before, sit bones right on that front edge. And the legs will go wide. So the legs are wide. The toes, you want to keep them pointing up towards the ceiling. We all have habitual patterns of tightness or spaciousness. So you might find that your toes drop in, or maybe have a tendency to drop back. Whatever it is, just try to keep the toes pointed straight up towards the ceiling as we settle into the posture. So for this posture, same as butterfly pose, you want to think of finding an anterior pelvic tilt. So that means that pelvis tilts forward. You may notice that my left leg, my toes want to drop in, so I have to be extra cautious to keep those toes pointing straight up as the pelvis tilts. You can bring the hands forward here. You can also use your bolster to support your head. It can be really nice here. You can also turn it down on its side. Rest your forearms here. And maybe rest in your neck. We'll be here for 4 minutes, same as the other postures, to allow our body the time to create space. If you're coming forward into the posture quite deeply, try to keep your spine long. So try not to find that big C shape. Think of drawing the heart forward so the spine stays more in a neutral alignment. And close your eyes. And bring your awareness right back to your breath. Make any adjustments you need to as your body opens into the posture. And be patient and give your body the time it needs. There's no rush. And Yin, we practice softening, the surrender into stillness. Find your breath. And with your next inhale, use your arms, lift your torso up. Once you're up, slide any props, blanket, or sorry, not your blanket, you can stay seated on your blanket. But you want to slide your bolster, block, anything like that off to the side. Take your hands underneath your knees and guide your legs toward one another nice and slow. Plant your feet, take your hands back behind you again, and we'll windshield wiper the legs. So our next posture will be double pigeon. It's also sometimes called square pose or 99. I'm just turning my blanket to face you guys so you'll be able to see the lineup, or the alignment rather, of the legs. So blanket here, if you have tighter hips or tighter lower back, can be really handy and helpful to prop the hips up a little bit. It gives us a little bit more access to that pelvic tilt. So same as before, you will sit with your sit bones right on the front edge. We'll start with the left leg in front. So cross-legged seat, left leg in front. So you may decide to stay here in this cross-legged seat. You could take your hands back behind you, lift up through the heart if you tend to be on the tighter side. Next option would be to walk your hands forward. Maybe the forearms come down. It's really not that important. You can use your bolster in front of you or block to support your head as well. Next option is to shimmy the shins so they're parallel to the front edge of your mat, or parallel just out in front of you. You're going to take your left leg and you're going to bring the left heel, left ankle up on top of your right knee. So the ankles and the knees stack. So same, both shins parallel as best you can to the front edge of your mat. You can see here that I have a pretty decent gap because my hips are on the tighter side. So for myself, I use a block and I place it right between my knee and my ankle. And that gives me a little extra support. You could turn it up a little bit higher or a lot higher. It just depends. This is one of those postures that the longer you hold, you really see the results. So by the end of, say, 4 minutes in the posture, you'll really notice a difference between where you started and where you end up. So once again, be patient. There's no rush. You can bring your bolster in front of you. I typically like to bring my bolster in front and turn it on its side here. So same as those other seated postures, tilt the pelvis forward, guide the heart forward, and then come forward. Rest your head on a block or your bolster, your hands. Perhaps let the head hang or stretch out through the crown of the head is usually my typical preference. When I let the head hang for myself, it can lead to a little bit of strain in the upper back neck. But that's just my body. I've had injuries there, so you might be fine. We'll be here for 4 full minutes. And see if you can soften through your hips a little bit more. We have just over a minute left on this side.
With your inhale breath, lift your torso up. Slide your bolster off to the side, slide your block off to the side. Unwind your legs, be mindful not to slingshot the legs. Bring the feet out in front of you again, hands come right back behind your hips. And gently rock them a little side to side. That little bit of internal rotation usually feels really good after that stretch there. All right, so we'll move over to the other side. So when you're setting yourself up, make sure again that you're sitting right on the front edge of the blanket. It's almost going to feel like you're sliding right off. Set up, your right leg will be in front this time. Coming into a cross-legged seat. Option to stay here, maybe you stay upright, working on maybe tilting the pelvis forward, drawing the heart forward. Maybe the hands can come forward and you fold over the legs. Next option is to lift that foot up, right foot, bring it on top of your left knee. So knees and ankles stack. Once again, you can see here I have a nice big gap. I'm going to place my block between my knee and my ankle. You can stay here, staying upright, heartless, pelvis tilts forward again, so anterior pelvic tilt, or walk your hands forward. If you have a bolster or something like that available, use it by all means. We'll be here for about 4 minutes, so find the version that works best for you. There's a famous yoga quote that goes something like, the practice of yoga doesn't begin until we want to come out of the posture. And for me, this is definitely one of those postures that takes a little extra patience to stay, to stick it out, to tough it out. So here it is, the practice of yoga. And close your eyes, settle in. And can you surrender into this posture even if the sensations are rather intense? We're about halfway through. Notice if you need to make any adjustments. Is your body giving you the okay to move closer to sensation? Or is it asking you to move away from sensation? Just a few more rounds of breath here. Allow these last few breaths to release any remaining tension in the hip, in the back, the shoulders. Nice and slow. Lift your torso up
Off of your bolster. And once you're up, slide your block, your bolster off to the side. Place your bolster across your mat if you're using one, or a cushion perhaps. You don't have to, this is just optional. We're moving into Shavasana. If you need to windshield wiper your legs a little bit for a moment, let the blood flow back in. It should feel really good. Jedi's being my little foot warmer right now. Don't mind him. And we'll go ahead and make our way onto our backs. So from here, you can take your legs over your bolster. And it's actually a little chilly in my house right now. The sun is shining, but it's still a little cool. So I'm going to cover myself up with my blanket. And lay all the way down onto your back. Stretch your hands down toward your hips, out by your side. Turn the palms up. And then close your eyes. And we'll begin our Shavasana with an exercise called P&R, Progressive Neuromuscular Relaxation. And to save time, we'll combine body parts and limbs. So we'll do two the same. We'll extend your legs long, lift them up just an inch or two, hug all the muscles tight to the bones, flex the feet, splay the toes wide, and release. Let them go. Give them a little shake side to side. And now flex the muscles of your hips, your glutes, maybe even squeeze them so much that they lift up off the ground, and release. Let it go. Now lift your arms up about 2 inches off the ground, split your fingers wide, and then make fists, bend the elbows slightly, squeeze the muscles tight, and release. And now open the eyes wide, stick out the tongue, and release. And now squeeze the eyes shut tightly, pucker the lips, scrunch the nose, squeeze, and release. gently deepen your breath. Stretch your out through your fingertips and your toes. Roll over onto your left side if you haven't already. Our left side is our yin side. Take a moment there. And then nice and slow, make your way up to a comfortable seat. Sitting tall here, guide your hands to heart center, palms touch, thumbs right into your sternum. Take this moment to practice gratitude. What are you grateful for today after this beautiful hip opening yoga practice? We cultivated patience, acceptance, non-judgment. And I thank you for sharing your practice today in honor of all that we are. Namaste. Thank you, yogis. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me. Sal Jedi, thank you for allowing them to participate. Take care. We'll see you next time.